Alright guys, welcome to your first web design video. We've got our index page, which is 44 lines of code, and we have our CSS page, which is 39 lines of code. All in all, nothing too bad, quite a few new things that we're going to be covering with you. If I show you the live preview of the website, which you can use in brackets, you should be able to download this at home. You can see we have our links that currently go nowhere, which is fine. We have our kind of header text here. This is basic website. We've got an image, as you can see, that is just covered in there. So as long as you've got an image that's 750 by 300, that's fine. And we have our text that is split into two different columns, and then we have our footer. So fairly standard basic website. And first thing you need to do then is you'll see the getting started page with brackets. What you need to do, click this area here. I'm going to click open folder. I'm currently in my documents anyway, and I'm just going to create a new folder called website 1. So you want to select that folder. Once you've done that, you'll get a completely blank site, and as normal, you want a new index.html page. Then you want a new folder called CSS, and in there you want a new file called style.css. Okay, so we've got our working folder of everything that we need, and the first thing you do is doc type HTML. Once you've got that, that's going to lay out, tell it that it's HTML5. Remember, Control S to save it. If I make an addition there, you can see that grey circle that appears. That means you haven't saved it. So Control S, every line of code you do, just want you to hit Control S. First thing we do is HTML tags, so open close tags. They're going to be basically the website itself, the web page. Then what you want is your head. Inside your head you should have a title, so we're going to call this website 1. Now I've started to tabulate everything, so tab is just literally just hitting the tab button, which will be above your caps lock button. That makes code a lot easier to read. So you can see these are your important tags here, and then we have the next tag there. Next line, you want link rel equals style sheet, href equals, now you should get css slash style.css. The reason being that we are in a working folder. And then make sure that you close it. You know if you haven't closed it or if anything's wrong, because the text underneath will go red. If you see any red text, that's when you should be concerned. So the next tag we do is going to be our body tag. I'm going to bring that up, and that is the basic layout of a website. Nothing in it at the moment. If I go over to live preview, let that load, you can see here it says website 1, and there's nothing in it, which there shouldn't be anyway. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay out our HTML. And the first thing you want is div class equals, and we're going to have a container. Now a container goes around the entire website itself, so think of it as extra body tags. That way we can actually set the exact properties that we want. So in the old previously we had a kind of layout of everything in the center. That's the style that we want. Next thing we're going to do is create our nav bar. This is a new tag that I haven't shown you yet, and this is called nav. Nav is your navigation bar. Anything you do in your nav bar, you use navigation for all nav tags. Inside nav tags, you want to create a list, which will look like bullet point list. So you'll have a dot and then some text, and then a dot and some more text. What we're going to do though is start with a UL, which stands for unorganized list. Give it a class of main-nav. Inside those ULs, those unordered lists, that will create your bullet point list. You need actual list items themselves, like that. Once you have all of these, then you can say hello. Let's do another one. So I'm going to do Control D. Welcome evening. And then we have a list. Now if I show you what looks at the moment, remembering to hit save, our live preview will show us this list. So an unordered list. So that box, that blue box that's coming up, that is our unordered list area, and and then each one of these is our list items. Next, what we want to do, however, is just go get rid of these. And we're going to create a list, but inside there we are going to have an href. Now an A stands for anchor, href is where it's going to go. And inside there we're going to say link 1. Then we're going to close the list. So what we should have now is a list with a reference hash. This means it doesn't go anywhere, so when you click it nothing happens. And then link 1. So if we do that 4 times and save it, and then I'll show you again what it looks like, is you now have links. And in the top here you can see that 8 hashtag. Don't you worry about that. These are our links, bullet points, but they don't look much like a navigation bar at the moment. So what we're going to do is head on over to our style sheet, and we're going to start editing everything that we need. So one thing I haven't shown you before is you can actually add CSS code to just the body. And the body, we're going to give it a font family of let's say sans serif. We are going to give it a font size as well, which is just going to tell you what size it is, 18 pixels, and we're also going to give it a line height. Line height is the space between each lines. Now this is going to act as everything really. What you also want to do is just above it is called wildcard, which isn't the best way, but we will do it for now. The asterisk just means that you are going to set everything to however you want it. And we're going to say margin 0, padding 0. That will stop the user agent style sheet. So Chrome, for example, giving you that awful block, and we'll keep it there. Save that. Now, if we go and preview our website, you will see that the links have now changed size and the bullet points have disappeared. Everything is as close as it is as possible. And the next thing that we're going to do is go to our style sheet, and we're going to set our navigation to have a background color. Remembering that you need to have U for that, and we're going to give it of hash 00000. If you click on that, you see it's actually black, so that's the hex code for black right there. Save that. And let's have a look at our website. Now we have a black box with our links that have gone purple because I've clicked on them. Once you've done that though, you want to now sort it so that you have space in between here and in between here. So we go back to our CSS sheet, and I'm going to put this on top of the nav, and we're going to use the container div right here. So go to style, dot, container. Then we can use in class, and you want a width of 750 pixels. Then you also want a margin of 0 or so. Now that's going to centralize everything for you. So if we look back at our website now, you'll see that the changes are that the bullet points are still there, which is not what we want, but the reason that they're still there is because we haven't taken them away yet. You have your black box, and then you have your links inside. Every time you resize your window, you're going to have a slight issue, because as you make it smaller, as you can see there, it's not absolutely perfect, which is not what we want, but we will fix that later. Next, we want to change our main navigation, so we actually want to style the main navigation. So if we go to main nav, and here we're just going to set padding of 0. That's all we need to do. We don't really need it in there. I'd like you to delete it and see what happens. So before you submit this, I want you to delete padding 0 and keep main nav on there. Next, we are going to start styling things inside the main nav class. So if we go back to your index page, inside your main nav, you also have lists that you can style, and you have anchor styles or anchor tags that you can style. So inside here, we're going to say our main nav So inside this class, we're going to style the list, but only inside the main nav. And we are going to say display inline block. Now what that is going to do is that is going to take away your bullet points. As you can see here, the bullet points are gone. I'm going to zoom this in for you. Bullet points are gone, and they now are a list. So a horizontal list rather than a vertical list, because no one wants a vertical list for your navigation bar. We're then going to give it a width of 15%. And I hit Control D, not Control S. As you can see here, what's happened now is you have a gap. So they always take up 15% of your navigation. If you want to get it even nicer, and you can spell, unlike me, you can set it to margin 0 also. Or you can do text, align, center. And that was moved slightly, but you can see it doesn't work. Now I'm doing this because I want people to actually listen and not have to try and fight with it. Next, what we're going to do is change the actual text. Now the text is in a list tag, which is also in a anchor tag or an A tag. So whenever I say A tag, I mean anchor. Whenever I say anchor, I mean main. I mean A. So in our main nav, in our list, we're going to set our anchor tags, and we're going to set the color to #555. And if you click on that color, you'll see it comes with a slightly grayer color. We're going to give it a text decoration of none. And what that will do is take off these lines. So if I delete that line very quickly, you can see the underline. Now that's the standard styling for hyperlinks. Right, add text decoration none. It's gone, which is much better. We are then going to set our text align to center, and then once we've done that, we're going to add some padding, and we're going to do it in the top, right, bottom and left, and to do that you set 10 pixels. That will do it all around. And we're going to add display block, and as you can see here in these blue lines, we are now creating much thicker links. If I set that back to 100, you can see the difference there. Now you've got padding in each bit, and it actually looks a lot neater, which is the way that we want it. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to change the hover. So when you hover over one of these, it will actually change color. And to do that, go back to our main nav in our list and our anchor icon, use a colon and use hover. So when your mouse hovers over, something is going to change. We're going to change our background color to #333, which if you click on there will give you a dark color, slightly lighter than black, and we're going to change the color there to white. So when we hover over now, you can see it brightens up, which is the main use of hover really, is you want to make sure that these links are visible and that users can see them. Next, we're going to go back to our index page. So we've got our navigation done, and the next part we want is our header. And to do that, rather than using the div class and saying header, HTML5 actually gave us more tags that we could use, like header. Headers do the exact same thing as divs. Divs are boxes, boxes make up websites. Simple one here, just give it an H1, and we're going to say basic website. Once you've done that, it's fairly simple. Just save it and have a look back at your website, and there it is, basic website. Now that's fine, but we want it in the middle. We want it to take up about that much space, and we want it to have a background color. So if we go back to our CSS, and we're going to add a new rule, and that rule is going to be for the header. Now remember, you don't need to do a full stop because your tag is a tag. It's not a class, you don't need to use full stop. So just header, and we're going to give it a background color of aqua because it's nicer than boring blue, and we're going to give it padding of 20 pixels all the way around. let's have a look. Now it looks much nicer now. So it actually fills out slightly of the website. We're then going to increase the font size of our H1 tag. Now you've got two ways of doing this really. You could set a rule to say H1 and do it that way. However, that would set it globally for any time you use H1. And you want to be very specific with how you set things. So in our header, we have our H1 tag. And we're going to change that to have a font size of 100 pixels. Save that, have a look, and now it's much bigger. Much better. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to create columns. And columns are going to be 2 columns, so they're going to take up half of each of these. And to start off with, when you go to your HTML, I'm going to use a div class equals column-1. So column-1 is fairly industry standard, and we're just going to add a p tag here. Actually, we'll add a h1 tag, and we'll say heading 1. And then we're going to add p tag, and I'm just going to put any old rubbish in here. Feel free to add whatever you like. And there's our p tag. So if we look at that, heading 1, you can see the difference because we styled the h1 tag in the header, which is this overriding section, and then globally for heading 1 we are going to do that. Go back to our style sheet, and we want to make sure that we actually keep it in as much as possible. So we're going to say the class of col-1, and this is when you start getting into responsive web design. So in here, rather than say a width of whatever the container is, which is 750, so you could say 375 pixels. Let's have a look at that, and you can see it's now broken up half. I'm going to add a background color of 333, so you can see it there. So you see how it takes up half the page. Now if I add on the CSS something like padding, because I don't want the text to be touching there, and I say 2 pixels all the way around, what you'll see is this block right here is now 375 with a padding of 2 pixels. So it's now actually 379. So you see that number up there, 379 by 94. That's not what we want. Remember, I told you before, everything in web is math related, so you would need to set that to 371. Save that, and then if we go back to inspect it, and you can see the size is now 379 still. 375, there you go. So, that's not what we want, because that's not responsive. That's not going to help us in any way, shape or form. I'm going to save that, and instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a second column. Now if I add a second column here and just set it so that it says div class equals col-2, and I'm just going to copy and paste this. So you've got your h1 tag and your p tag. Save it. I'm going to reload this. You can see that you have 2 blocks, and we want it so that it's split, so that way this text here is going to come along on the right hand side. If we say our column 1 is going to have a width of 375 pixels, and we say that our column 2 is going to have a width of 375 pixels, that should fix it, right? Because you've got 750 in total, but the issue is that it drops down the bottom. The last thing you need to do is try and set out how you're going to make it so that you're not going to have this issue and that this is going to come over this side. What you need to do is start using responsive design. So our width is going to be 50% and 50%. Now that is responsive. If I refresh the page, nothing has changed yet. However, if I change the size, you can see no matter what, so you can see the top at the moment, which isn't responsive, is getting cut off. However, the text here is always going to stay at 50%. So, what we need to do is make it so that it floats. The best way to do that is use the float. So what we do is we go back to our CSS and we're going to use our float. Best way to do this is just say float left, and then here we're going to say float left. Save that, have it back at your website, and boom. Now it fits, and it will always be 50% of the size until it gets to a certain point, at which point it's still filling up as much as possible. So we're doing quite well so far. Let's change this though, and let's add some padding. Now if I add 2% padding, remembering that you can use responsive padding, save that, go back, and now it's dropped down again. The reason being that you have 50% here, you have 2% padding there, which is going to the left and right, so you need to change this number to 46. And now it fits. And now we've got a nice bit of padding and it fits perfectly. So if we give it a background color of, let's say, light grey, or maybe, yeah, light grey will do. And we give the same one, background dash color of light grey. Noticing that they can be spelled in two different ways, so you can say A or you can say E. It does the same thing. And there you have it. So you've got your two blocks and you've got some nice padding inside. We also want to put an image. So we're going to have an image that goes underneath. Now I've set up a placeholder image for you. So you just need to follow this link, and this teaches you quite well about how you can link images from a website, which is what we're going to do eventually anyway when we publish our own websites. Now remember, everything has to stay inside this div class container, so drop down a couple and we're going to add a div class equals banner. In there we are going to add an image, so img, and that's going to tell the website to load an image. And we need to say where it is. Now source, or src, is the exact same as href, only you don't use href for your images, you use source. So basically, where is your image going to be held? Now you can link to a folder as it's coming down here, but we're not going to have it on a folder because that means you have to go find a website, or go find an image that you want. Instead, type in http://placehold.it/750x 300 and link it that way. Save that, come back, and you'll have your placeholder image turn up. Please note, if you're not connected to the internet, you're not going to have this image, you'll have a broken image. Make sure you are online when you're doing this. If not, set a div to have a class of banner and set the banner to be 750 wide by 300 pixels high. Now that we've done that, all we need to do is add a little bit of a footer. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another HTML5 tag. So rather than say div class equals footer, we are going to just use the footer tag. And in here, we're going to put p tag, and we're going to use the copyright symbol. So that is ampersand copy, the semicolon, and we're going to say 2017, and then your name here. If anyone submits using your name here, please don't. Change that to what your name is, i.e. if your name is Dave, write Dave. If your name is Sally, change it to Sally. Okay, don't leave it as your name here. And there we have it. Now, if I were to switch around this image with this text, we have a fairly sizable problem. You don't need to do this, this is just to show you. In that the footer is coming here, and the banner is coming here. If I make another div, I'm going to consistently have the issue. So let's put a p tag, and you can see there. So we don't want anything linked, and good practice to make sure that everything is not trying to push to its left hand side. So everything at the moment is trying to go as far left as possible. This luckily is taking up the whole space, but we want to go down, and the final one is our footer. And in our footer, we want to use something called clear both. Now, clear both is going to remove the float left property. Everything will try and float left unless you use clear both, so make sure you're using that. We're going to give it a background color of whatever you want. I'm going to use blanched almond because I'm hungry, and then you want some padding in there. So we're going to say 50 pixels on the top and bottom, and then we're going to say 10 pixels on left and right. Remembering you can write it as 50 pixels, 10 pixels, and 50 pixels, 10 pixels, but to save time you can set it to just 50 pixels, which will do top and bottom, and then 10 pixels, which is left and right. Then we're going to have the color itself of FFF, and if I click that and show you, that will come up as white. So if I save that, you can see your beautifully blanched almond color and the not massively visible white text. And there you have it. There is your first basic website. If you wanted to add a slightly bigger gap, you have two choices for here. You could set your footer to have a margin top, let's say 20 pixels, so it's size margin, well, so it's visible, and then we have the margin that's come up here. You also have the option of, rather than saying the margin at the top, you could set CSS for your banner, and you could set a new rule that says margin bottom 20 pixels. Save that, and you have the same effect. So it doesn't really matter where you use it, as long as you use it. And that's it. So make sure that you change your, or you save your files, and then what I want you to do is take a well, I'll show you, much easier. So to upload it, I want you to right click here, and I want you to click send to, and then compressed zip folder called website1. You can then upload that file to Canvas, and that will be your website1. Once you've done that, head over to video 2 for website 2. Thanks.